Assalamualaikum everyone. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome to Anglo Polymers full year 2025 and first quarter 2026 analyst briefing. My name is Rabia Fafan. I'm CFO of Anglo Polymers and Anglo Polymers CEO.
Ji, Assalamualaikum everyone. So my name is Abdul Karim. I'm heading this organization the last 2 years, and very warm welcome to all participants.
I think we can share the screen now.
Yeah. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, let's have a recap of what year 2025 looked for us in terms of the overall performance. So if we this first basic slide is based on the fact that what the macroeconomic conditions were. So I'll not go much deeper into this. I'm sure you all will know much more than what I can explain. But GDP growth numbers and similarly the inflation and the policy rate challenges and the exchange rate. So I think screen has gone off. Can you share it again?
Just sharing.
Okay. So as I said, these are the just numbers. Just to recap the overall macro conditions in Pakistan. And on the next page, so if we look at the overall global conditions, on first I'll try to capture on the PVC part. The PVC prices in 2025 were absolutely on a downside. So on average basis, I think it was 716 in 2025. And prices started to increase in Q1 of 2026. That mainly because China has removed the tax rebate that was available on exports out of Chinese origin. So that's one aspect that helped us in Q1 of 2026. And very recently is obviously because of this US-Iran conflict, there are a lot of development in terms of the overall petrochemical. So we'll talk more about it, but mainly the because of the disruption into the naphtha part, the ethylene is driving the overall prices because Far East is all being fed from naphtha through this Strait of Hormuz, and there is the problem in terms of the supplies of naphtha for the ethylene crackers, and subsequently ethylene is short into the market. The core delta that is improved in Q1 of 2026, but was very depressed in 2025 in terms of the overall contest, as I talked about, because of the PVC pricing. Prices have taken a correction in Q1 2026, but now those are getting stabilized, and PVC have started to take in a softer approach. Yet ethylene is still at a higher side of the curve, but PVC prices has taken a correction in last few weeks in May 2026. On a caustic, I think prices remained into the same range-bound range throughout 2025 also, because mainly there is a oversupply, so everybody is trying to manage the share, and operating rates are being managed accordingly. But there is a tailwind in terms of the Europe, where the industry is trying to manage, because that's the higher cost of production units available in Europe. So that area is optimizing in terms of the rationalization of operations and the overall, I would say, operating rates, as well as shutting down the units, those who are absolutely not into the sort of a competitive range at all. We have seen some rebound of caustic prices in 2026, again, mainly because of this conflict also, but have again started taking slow corrections in April timeframe. But we yet to see what is the conclusion on this overall conflict and where these prices will sort of settle. In terms of hydrogen peroxide, we came into operation in February last year. Alhamdulillah, the plant has given whatever it was supposed to give as top-notch performance in terms of production, but the prices remain depressed in 2025. We have a challenge from Bangladesh in terms of the pricing as well as the quantities offered, because the Bangladesh was offering into the Pakistani market on a very regular basis. So that's still, but we have been able to get the market share in 2025 and in 2026 first quarter also. We have seen some price recoveries in March and April timeframe in HPO globally also and regionally also. So that is where we are standing as of now. If we can go to next page, this basic highlight for 25, revenue has increased comparing last year by 3%. Our profitability, unfortunately, has gotten a lot more dent. We'll talk about the factors those influence all this part. And similarly, these loss per share is just a number that is getting calculated out of the profitability part. And as I talked about the overall prices into the petrochemicals, so we are not able to export too much in 2025 because the cost of doing is more and export opportunity is lesser in terms of the prices. On a scale basis, they are close to 30 billion market cap. We have, mashallah, achieved 50 million man hours in our safe operations, and similarly, we have close to 700 direct employees in our portfolio, as well as the total assets of 117 billion rupees. So the main variance, as I talked about, in terms of our revenues were 3%. Despite we have a significant growth in PVC market, our market share was our volume grew by close to 26%. But that's first quarter, sorry. In 2025, our volume still grew better, but we are not able to capitalize because the PVC prices were phenomenally low compared to 2024. So we, despite having a better revenue in terms of volume of PVC as well as the caustic on a stable operation, and we added HPO for 10 months of operations also. So our revenue improved by 3%, whereas our cost of sales were 6% high, mainly because of the low core delta, as I explained. And similarly, the bigger impact that came our way in 2025 is the gas cost in terms of the gas levy for the captive power plants, which is in a tune of 2.2 billion rupees in terms of the sales cost. So we have seen some movement in gas cost in terms of the understanding with the IMF. So we'll see that benefit, inshallah ta'ala, that's yet to come. But because of these factors, our gross profit reduced by 27% in 2025, mainly because of the higher cost and eventually because of the lower core delta part that actually um, not very helpful for us in terms of reaching to any profitable numbers. So that's one, despite whatever was in our control in terms of our administrative expenses, we are 19% below than what it was last year, because whatever we can do that is in our control, we try to do and deliver on that front. Our finance cost has been lower in 2025 because the interest rates were very low comparing to 2024. But on the taxation part, we remain very high just because 24 there was a one-off tax credit that's not going to that was not repeated obviously in 2025, and we had a disadvantage of super tax also that we had to pay in 2025, that is 0.6 billion rupees. So because of all these factors combining together, our profitability obviously got a significant dent, and we were unfortunately closed the year at close to 4 billion rupees loss. So in terms of the overall balance sheet part, Rabin, if you can explain.
So in terms of material variances in the balance sheet, if you look at it, total assets up by around 16 billion rupees. And primarily this is, if you look at it, in an increase in cash and bank balances. Last year, at the end of last year, we talked about it in the AGM also. We had taken certain loans to reprofile our balance sheets, to optimize our balance sheet structure. And on the back of that, around 21 billion in cash in the balance sheet. This was offset by a lower stock in trade. We had brought our inventories, working capital levels down, and also lower advances, deposits, and receivables. So we have tightened collections on receivable, etc., to reduce the exposures and to shorten the cash cycle. In terms of liabilities, again around 20 billion higher, and primarily this is on the back of long-term borrowing, like I said. And in December of 2025, we picked up around 30 billion in long-term loans, of which around 10 billion pertains to the power projects that we aim to complete. If we get approvals to go ahead with it, primarily a move from captive power to grid, and the remaining was to restructure the balance sheet. And as you can see, short-term borrowings have decreased from around 12 billion to 1 billion, 0.6 billion, and that has happened because of the increase in long-term borrowing. We have also seen an increase in trade and other payables as ethylene prices and have remained high. So supply credit is high, and then working capital optimization is also pulled into trade and other payables.
So on the overall financial highlights, I think this is again just a numerical number, and you people have already info about. But the great part is, I think if you look at the revenue part, despite having a very low core delta comparing 2024, we're still able to make higher revenue because of the higher sales, as I've already touched base. And similarly, EBITDA is under pressure because the cost of doing is high, and the prices are depressed in the overall process. And the PAT I've already talked about. So this is just a depiction of the numbers in terms of last 5 years. So this is the segment-wise performance. Our portfolio is mainly into PVC. So out of 78 billion rupees in 2025, 80% is, and the great part is that we have added HPO. So last year HPO was coming online gradually, and 2% was coming out from HPO as revenue, and chloralkali is stable into the same range, 18-19%. Comparing last year 2024, you can see the comparison. So we have obviously optimized the overall, and in terms of the profitability, caustic soda is again, chloralkali is the area where we continue to get some sort of support in terms of the profitability. But the main impact in 2025 is because of the PVC operations, and mainly because of the core delta and the pricing associated to that model. So that's just again a depiction of 24 and 25 in terms of comparison. And if we come to the business updates, as I already talked about, we have grown by 16% in terms of year on year in terms of our sales. So we sold 239 KT of PVC resin in Pakistani market, comparing 2024 at 206 KT. So a very significant growth into the market, and similarly, in production also, from a 212 KT to 230 KT we produced last year, because first half was very depressed. So we are trying to optimize the overall operations in terms of the managing the inventory also, because our trade limits were very high in terms of our overall stock inventory levels and associated things. Similarly, VCM production also, we were able to achieve 232, mainly because we took a shutdown in first half on VCM PVC to manage the inventories, but second half was a full throttle production at a very high operating rates. So we were able to produce 232, again much better than 2024 in terms of the overall production. And all segments are doing good on the commercial side. So pipe and fitting being the biggest construction material into the portfolio, but cables and wall panels are going good. Film and sheets also doing better. Footwear is the area where we are seeing some stagnancy or maybe a reduction, because there's a lot more competitive material is coming from China. And similarly, other stuff is more or less same. But the new products that we are trying to induct into the market and downstream, that effort is going on, and that is improving at a very good rate as new products or the innovative products that we call. So on the next page, if we look at the caustic and hydrogen peroxide, I've already touched base. The sales are very much steady. Our main concentration is into the south region. The textile is doing fairly good in terms of the overall environment. So caustic is fairly stable in terms of the overall supply chain perspective or the production perspective. But the only issue is our cost of production in the caustic segment because of the gas levy that is hurting us in terms of the margins. So that's the key area of, and that's where Rabia touched base that either we have to convert to grid or some alternate option. So that is very much in the radar. We are trying to do that. Similarly, whatever we can do to make sure that operations are efficient, and wherever we can get something from our innovation, our optimization. So all efforts are being done so that we can reduce the cost of doing business from other operating aspects and supply chain aspects, because gas levy is something that is beyond our control at this point in time. On hydrogen peroxide, we continue to strengthen our position in local market, and we have closed the market share in the month of December. We started obviously from zero in February, and we have achieved a market share of 32%. But I think on a scale basis, we'll be able to sustain anything between 26, 28, 30% as a market share into the HPO market, because our competitor and us and the imports, those are coming. I think that will be a fine balance that we have to strike. And we are doing, mashallah, good in first quarter, that I'll touch base when we come to the first quarter part. And in HPU also, we are centric more into the south region as long as our sales are concerned. So Bangladesh we are tackling, and we have gotten anti-dumping from other seven countries, mainly towards the Korea, Vietnam, and those regional countries where we have gotten the sunset review approved for next 3 years, 5 years, I think.
5 years.
5 years for the HPO anti-dumping from seven countries. So this is just to sum up the year 2025, and coming on to Q1. That's, I think, some
Relief.
relief, or maybe area where we can say that things are getting something towards a positive closures, and things have started moving into the right direction in terms of the pricing, in terms of the volumes and everything. So I'm very happy to report we have, alhamdulillah, gotten a very good revenue in first quarter of 22 billion, which is 24% better than the last year Q1 2025. Similarly, our profitability is alhamdulillah, we have achieved green status at least in the Q1 2026. And similarly, EPS is also 0.41 against a loss of almost a rupee in the same period last year. So something to celebrate, and one has to be very mindful of the fact that operations are very much aligned with basics in Pakistan, but the pricing, international pricing, and the associated stuff is the thing that has moved in Q1 2026. And I think if we are going to get any rebate on anything more on the gas levy front, then it will add a lot more value to the business, inshallah ta'ala. Either gas levies reduce or we convert it to the grid part. So that will help, inshallah ta'ala, achieve better operations. And on the scale front, again, these are the numbers. We have achieved 51 million man hours now, mashallah, because complete first quarter operation. Market cap is a movement into the stock prices, and we are at the same employees level at this point in time, which where we were in 2025 end. Coming back to the segment-wise performance, again, it's a more or less same area. We are at 81% of the PVC operation. Our chlor-alkali is again into the same ballpark numbers. HPO is improving comparing last quarter because we started in February, so HPO was very insignificant. And why PVC is more, and because we have seen a phenomenal growth in Q1 comparing last year 2025 to 2026. So that's where the caustic segment is more or less stable comparing last year, but PVC has grown phenomenally in Q1 of 2026. That's where the revenue share is shifting from 79 to 81. And on profitability part, if you look at Q1 25 to Q1 26, caustic profitability has gotten a dent because of the gas levy impact, obviously, that we are not able to pass on to customers because all other producers are having the production from coal and grid, and we are on the captive gas basis, so our margins are getting dent out of it. The HPO operations are getting stabilized. I'm very hopeful that Q2 we will be able to manage this also into the greener side, inshallah Ta'ala, on HPO business. PVC has been overall positive in 2025 26 quarter one. So that has given us the profitability in Q1 2026, and we closed the quarter with 371 million rupees against a loss of 925 million in same period last year. So something, alhamdulillah, to look for, and we'll continue to strive Q2 and beyond to sort of manage these operations much better. Let's hope for the best, inshallah, on this segment. And this I've already talked about. We sold last year 239 KT on the PVC volumes. If you look at the quarter to quarter comparison, last year we sold 54 KT in the same period. This year we have been able to sell 68 KT, and that gives us almost 26% growth. There was some speculative buying also because the trajectory was increasing, the prices were increasing, so everybody tried to capitalize on that part. So we will see some obviously demand destruction in Q2, but that will stabilize as a whole on a first half basis. So, but Q1 remained phenomenal. Similarly, the same good story on the production also. We have been much better than last year in terms of production, both on VCM and PVC. So the segment wise, overall, as I talked about, looking forward, I think our focus is to make sure that non-conventional products get growing at a faster pace so that we continue to build the market, and also product availability and engaging closely with the channel partners. That will also help us, inshallah Ta'ala, to maintain this part. And we are very, very actively working on the anti-dumping on the new sources, that is mainly US and Indonesia, from where the imports are coming at a dump price. So that application is already with NTC. The review is in progress as of now, and we'll continue to focus, inshallah, and follow that case. On the caustic segment, again, it's more or less steady operations, steady sales performance, stable demand, more or less pricing are also stable. The only thing that we are getting dent is obviously the pricing in terms of we started with 300 rupees levy in March, April timeframe last year. February gas levy, we have paid 1400 rupees. In fact, we are not paying. We have a case we are in litigation process. So currently we have the stay, but this is what that we are factoring in as 1400 rupees roughly, the gas levy, which is roughly what 40% of the gas cost. So we can understand 3500 rupees is the gas cost and 1400 rupees is the gas levy. So something that that is unfortunate for us, but so global prices have increased in Q1. Phenomenal improvement, I think I would say. PVC prices have gone up to 1160, $1170 at some point in time. But then PVC has started softening. Ethylene prices have also increased very much from $750, $800 to close to $1,600 in the same period. But ethylene prices are not coming down in the same way that PVC has started showing the decline, because still the naphtha is not fluently traveling between the Middle Eastern part and the Far Eastern players. So ethylene is not there, as feedstock is limited for them. So that's where we are hopeful that once this conflict is over and there will be a steady movement of the raw material for ethylene crackers, we'll see some response in ethylene prices also in Q2 and beyond. Rest, we are focusing more on our operations, the value chain systems, and everything wherever we can do to optimize and get advantage in terms of cost of doing business. On HPO, we have stabilized in first quarter. We have achieved the market share, alhamdulillah. We'll continue to focus on this new product. As I said, this is again a south region specific product. We do send product to north also, but majority of our sales volumes are into the north market. But price are not to that level, though first quarter 2026 has seen some improvement in prices. Bangladesh prices has also increased and are currently moving in somewhere around $420 to $450, which is in sync with more or less the international pricing at times. But we yet to see the stability in this part and how this will behave in terms of the once the conflict is over. So we are monitoring that part. Plant is perfectly all right. We have tested the plant at 110% of the overall capacity. So we have all practical capability to produce close to 32,000 tons of HPO from a design plant of 28 KT from a licensor point of view. But we have tested and demonstrated that this plant can produce 31.5 KT on annualized basis. And similarly, I've already talked about we have gotten the anti-dumping duty for 5 years on 7 countries. So that's on the hydrogen peroxide. Update on the gas levy. This again I've touched base. So we started with 238 in March and have moved in different cycle, but only on a positive trajectory as long as the gas levy is concerned.
The dotted line.
But now we are having a news that IMF has kind enough to consider and agree with the government of Pakistan to revisit the formula for the gas levy calculation, and hopefully this will be effective from March, which we will be getting the bill in June, hopefully. So from March, we are anticipating that gas levy should come down because they are currently calculating on a only peak basis for us. So the new formula that they've agreed is they will calculate based on the peak and off peak on a weighted average basis. So that will give us some rebate in terms of the gas levy and subsequently our cost of doing business and the margins and caustic also. So that's the update on the gas part. On this part, I think the other alternate that Rabia has already touched base. We are aggressively working on the alternate, be it conversion to the grid. So that project is very much under the radar. We are into the engineering scope and calculation. Once that is done, we will because I'm sure some discussion is on the transaction also that is linked with this part. So we will conclude on this. But taking the baby steps, we have already started solar implementation at site, and hopefully, inshallah, we are very hopeful that today or tomorrow we'll be powering up one of the segment of 2 megawatt solar that we have already started to install at site. So this ideally target was 2Q of 2026, but I'm hopeful that today, tomorrow, day after tomorrow, we'll be powering up first panel so that we start getting the molecule from solar into the system, inshallah. On the overall look ahead and focus area, safety is paramount. There's no point that we are going to take a back step on this part. This is the fundamental point for all of us, our operations that we will continue to do, inshallah ta'ala. On the macro basis, I think the overall part is the future capital commitment in terms of whatever is happening in terms of policy rate, the inflation, the exchange. So we should be ready for any eventuality in this overall part. So that's where Rabia and team is trying to make sure that we have those contingencies covered under our cash flow mechanism and dollar liabilities. So that's where on the raw material side, as I told you, we have been able, alhamdulillah, we have been able to achieve flawless operation till now, despite we are into the third month of war and we source all our ethylene from outside. Our one of the supplier is not able to supply even, and we are getting the cargoes from market on a spot basis. but we have been able to, alhamdulillah, secure the cargo and manage our operations. So this will be a continuous challenge going forward until this conflict is over and naphtha movement is normal. But we will be focusing this part, and we have that bandwidth available through our company experts in terms of inshallah making sure that we will be getting the raw materials. Similarly, on PVC, I've talked about that we have started seeing some decline into the PVC prices. Ethylene is not coming to that follow the same trend like PVC is following, but I think it will take some time to stabilize the overall part, and things will settle down soon, inshallah ta'ala. On caustic, we are very much constant in terms of our operation as well as our sales. So things are steady. We are good on that front. The advantage will come hopefully, inshallah, on this gas levy part. Hydrogen peroxide, again, import pressure from Bangladesh is there. We are managing our market share and try to get as much better value for our product into the domestic market by continuous engagement with our customers, giving them a wow factor in terms of our services and everything. So that's the continuous challenge on our side and as an objective for our commercial team, so that we stay strong in terms of our local market, and at the same time we'll continue to work on regulatory fronts in terms of a fair competition into the market. On energy, I've already talked about grid connectivity that we are aggressively looking and working on. Solar, I've already updated that we will continue to sort of pursue this, and this will be completed inshallah ta'ala in next maybe one and a half month as total. And cash conservation, again, on that topic I've already touched upon, just for the sake of time so that we are able to get as many questions as possible. So I think that ends the overall part, and we will be very happy to go into a Q&A session. These were the 5 questions, just for the clarity to all, so that we how we are going to take it, Rabia? Should we?
So, 5 questions were received on email, so we can just quickly go over them right now and get them out of the way. So, I'm sure all of you have questions along these lines. What is the current captive gas levy based on the updated formula? So, on the updated formula, currently the captive gas levy comes to around 550, 600 rupees per MMBTU. The updated formula, we've all heard about it in the news, but it hasn't been billed yet. So we are awaiting updated bills before we can give the final number for sure. What is the current average cost of electricity from captive gas? So current average cost of electricity from captive gas is around 47 rupees per kilowatt hour. And of course, with the credit from steam, the steam turbine, it's around, I think, 36 rupees, I don't know. In terms of an update on alternate power options to replace captive gas power, Qayyum's already talked about it multiple times during the presentation, but primarily grid is the option that Agro Polymer needs to look at to move to from the captive gas solution, power solution, and solarization is something which we are incrementally undertaken. For a massive solar initiative, renewable initiative, we do need a grid connection. And that is also something that we are exploring when we are discussing our alternate power options. Update on the EPCL acquisition by Lotte.
So on the acquisition part, I think it's market info is already available to you. We are currently into due diligence. NBO is signed between the sponsors and the potential buyer. As of now, the due diligence is going on. We, as the operations, I think we are only involved to a level where they need any data. We need to show them, come to the plant, whatever coordination we can do. But in terms of the exact status, I think that's between the Angro Holding and the potential buyer themselves. But the transaction, the due diligence, I can safely say that it's going on with a very good pace. And so far, I don't see any blocks either. Those we come to know in terms of But exact, obviously, this I think is the Engro holding, and they must have already responded in terms of their analyst briefing also. But the due diligence is very much going on, and potentially the information to us is that in the month of June there will be some decision in terms of moving forward on this acquisition decision. So that's all I can share and say. In terms of the preference share,
So in terms of the preference shares, even if the acquisition is approved by the board, the pref shares is a company business, so Anglo Polymer के pref shares remain in place, and they will continue to remain in place until the call and put options are exercised or expire. Thanks. I think we can open the floor for questions. You can stop the screen share, Emma, and we can take ask Jalal's questions first. Maple Leaf Capital Limited.
Ji, Assalamu alaikum. This is Nasir Jalal from
Alaikum
Maple Leaf Capital Limited. I have a couple of questions. Firstly, given the recent reduction in LNG supply from Qatar and the broader gas shortage.
आसिल आपकी आवाज थोड़ी कट के आ रही है. Can you
Ji, the question pertains to your gas supply. Given the recent reduction in LNG supply from Qatar and the broader gas shortfall in the country, has the company been receiving adequate gas for uninterrupted operations? And secondly, also for pricing purposes, is your gas supply being treated entirely as indigenous gas? Uh, my second question is, in a previous briefing, management mentioned that the PVC segment around 20% of gas usage is captive, while the rest is industrial or process related, whereas the caustic segment around 80% is captive usage. Since the levy is imposed only on captive usage, is it correct to assume that the company's realized average gas cost is materially lower than the headline notified tariff? And if possible, could you share the company's approximate realized average gas cost?
आसिल, I think we'll just go question by question. आपकी आवाज काफी muffled आ रही है, तो वो आप देख लें. I think the first question.
मैं तो नहीं मतलब कर पाया.
So-
If you have understood, please.
So I believe your first question related to whether we've been getting uninterrupted gas, Asim. In the last couple of months, we have been getting gas for uninterrupted operations. As you know, we were in an outage for the last 3 weeks. PSX पे notice भी आया था. Plant has mashallah successfully been started up a couple of days ago, and we continue to receive gas again for power consumption and for process. आसिल, आपका सेकंड सवाल अगर आप रिपीट कर दो तो हम. हाँ, in a previous briefing, management mentioned, या बड़ा कर दोगे, mentioned that for the PVC segment, around 20% of just a second. In a previous briefing, I'll just read out Asil's question. In a previous briefing, management mentioned that for the PVC segment, around 20% of gas usage is captive, while the rest is industrial process related. Whereas for the caustic segment, around 80% is captive usage. Since the levy is imposed only on captive usage, is it correct to assume that the company's realized average gas cost is materially lower than the headline notified tariff? If possible, could you share the company's approximate realized average gas cost? So first things first, the PVC segment, around 20% of gas usage is captive, is probably not the correct vote. It is.
नहीं तो मैं इसको सिंपल कर
हाँ,
देते ना.
तो-
देखें, we consume roughly 20 mmSCFD of gas on a given basis. Out of that, 75-80% is into the power generation and 20% is into the process. When we say process, is mainly into the furnaces that we fire or the boilers that we produce steam for the process area. So the gas levy is applicable on all the 80%, 78% that we get gas for the power plant operations. And similarly, then there is a function of how much power is getting processed or maybe allocated to the PVC operation and the caustic operation. But as a rule of thumb, the gas price for power consumption is 3,500 rupees as of today, and if I'm not wrong, somewhere around 2,400 rupees for process.
Yes.
So 2,400 rupees is for 20% of the total consumption, where no levy is also applied, and 80% of the gas is at 3,500 rupees, which is captive gas, and gas levy is applicable on a 1,400 rupees basis as of today. I hope that answers you, Asif.
Average gas cost is not materially lower than the headline tariff.
Correct.
Is what you're trying to say. Acha, the second question is from Ghulam Haider. Thanks, Asif. जी
अस्सलाम
गुलाम
वालेकुम।
हैदर, आपका सवाल।
आवाज़ आ
वालेकुम
रही है मेरी?
जी जी।
जी, सबसे पहले तो लास्ट क्वार्टर के परफॉर्मेंस के लिए आप लोगों को बहुत कंग्रेचुलेशन। और कुछ क्वेश्चंस है इसमें। एक तो सबसे पहले ग्रिड के हवाले से है कि हम कॉस्ट ऑफ गुड सेल को, जैसे गैस के प्राइसेस जो है ना वो इम्पेक्ट कर रहे हैं ग्रॉस प्रॉफिट को, तो क्या हम ग्रिड की तरफ शिफ्ट हो रहे हैं? नंबर वन क्वेश्चन है। और दूसरा ऑप्शन जो हमारे पास था रिन्यूएबल का, तो रिन्यूएबल में हमारे पास क्या क्या ऑप्शन है और उस पे क्या हम कमिंग फ्यूचर में देख रहे हैं कोई कैपिटल एम्प्लॉय हो? और तीसरा क्वेश्चन था कि जो एक्विजिशन है लोटे के साथ, तो अगर इन केस ये मटेरियलाइज हो जाता है तो उस सूरत में थिंक पीवीसी का उसके ऊपर कोई इम्पेक्ट तो नहीं पड़ेगा ना, क्योंकि वो तो प्राइवेट है। वो ज़रा क्लियर कर दीजिएगा। और लास्ट क्वेश्चन है कि जो जियो पॉलिटिक्स है उसकी वजह से रॉ मटेरियल की इंपोर्ट पे कोई असर पड़ रहा है या नहीं पड़ रहा है? तो ये काइंडली, ये तीन चार क्वेश्चन है, तो इसको ज़रा एलिबरेट कर दीजिएगा। थैंक यू।
थैंक यू हैदर साहब फॉर ऑल फोर। सो पहला सवाल है ऑन ग्रिड। सो देखिए, मैंने ऑलरेडी अपने आप को बहुत क्लियर किया कि हमारी गोइंग इन पोजीशन ये है कि हमें ग्रिड पे कन्वर्ट होना चाहिए। नाउ सिंस हमारा प्लांट ऑपरेशनली भी बहुत कॉम्प्लेक्स है, तो हमें रिलायबिलिटी भी बहुत जरूरी है। तो हमने उसको टू फेज अप्रोच बनाई कि यार हम आधा लोड अभी ट्रांसफर करते हैं, थोड़ा सा रिलायबिलिटी को टेस्ट करते हैं, बट आधा लोड ले जाना जरूरी है, क्योंकि वी विल कवर एवरीथिंग एंड स्टिल वी विल बी बेनिफिशियल इन टर्म्स ऑफ द ओवरऑल प्रोसेस। सो उस पे डिसीजन हो चुका था से मेरा मैनेजमेंट तैयार है। वी वर सपोज टू टेक इट टू द बोर्ड, देन ये ट्रांजेक्शन की थोड़ी सी चीजें चली, क्योंकि आप सबको आई एम श्योर ये पता होगा कि द पोटेंशियल बायर दैट इज परसुइंग दिस ट्रांजेक्शन is having a solution available on the energy also, which is readily available to them in terms of the grid connectivity. They have surplus power available, so it will be much easier, faster, quicker and cheaper to connect the power to EPCL plant also. So इसके लिए थोड़ा सा हम इस पे होल्ड हुए हैं कि यार ये ट्रांजेक्शन अगले एक आध महीने में क्लोज हो जाए। तो इधर ये होती है तो हम वो उस साइड से पावर इंटीग्रेट कर दें, नहीं होती तो फिर हम अपनी तरफ से, दैट इज वेयर राबिया टच बेस के हम जो लॉन्ग टर्म हमने लोन्स लिए हुए थे उसमें हमने अपने लिए वो बफर रखा है कि यार हमने ये कैपेक्स करना है। तो बहुत क्लियर है ये कि ये करना है इस पूरे प्रोसेस में। सवाल नंबर 2।
सवाल नंबर लॉटे ट्रांजैक्शन एंड थिंक पीवीसी's फ्यूचर।
नहीं, 4 सवाल थे इनके, मैं असल में सवाल ज्यादा होते हैं तो बात। सो रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी इसी के साथ अब देखें आप, जो है ना हमारी पावर मशीन जो है वो फिक्स आरपीएम मशीन्स है, तो गैस टर्बाइन्स आर नॉट वेरी मच फेवरेबल इन टर्म्स ऑफ पुटिंग मोर लोड्स ऑफ सोलर, बिकॉज आप दिन में सोलर फायदा देगा तो गैस टर्बाइन्स लो लोड पे चली जाएंगी, आप बंद नहीं कर सकते उनको, और उनको रैंप अप रैंप डाउन में कोई मटेरियल फायदा नहीं होता। आप गैस उतने प्रोपोर्शन से कम नहीं करते जितना आप पावर कम करते हैं, तो गैस टर्बाइन्स बिकम इनएफिशिएंट इफ आप उसको जब लोअर लोड पे चलाते हैं। तो जब इन पूरी एनालिसिस को देखते हैं ना, तो आपके लिए रिन्यूएबल सोर्स लाने के लिए आपको कोई ऐसा ऑल्टरनेट पावर चाहिए जो उसकी इस अप्स एंड डाउन को सपोर्ट कर सके, और वो इधर ग्रिड है या आपकी इंजन होती हैं जो कोई पेस पे ऊपर जाती है नीचे आती हैं। तो हमारे पास जब तक ग्रिड नहीं आएगी हम रिन्यूएबल में बहुत ज्यादा काम नहीं कर सकते, इसीलिए हमने वो बेबी स्टेप लिया गया कि 2 मेगावाट तो हमारे अपने जो बिल्डिंग्स हैं, जो हमारे पास ऐसा लोड है जो कि दिन में चलता है रात में चलता ही नहीं है, तो हम कम से कम उसको तो कन्वर्ट कर देना। तो दिस इज द स्टेप टुवर्ड्स दैट डायरेक्शन। हम रिन्यूएबल में जब बड़े हो सकते हैं जब हमारे पास ग्रिड आ जाए इंशाल्लाह ताला। तो ये दूसरा सवाल था। थिंक पीवीसी को कुछ भी नहीं होने वाला। थिंक पीवीसी इज 100% ओन एंड दैट्स आवर इनिशिएटिव इन टर्म्स ऑफ our market development initiative, but that is also very much supported by our partners in that part. We have given a lot of money to that business to sustain and survive, but I am very happy to report, Alhamdulillah, that in Q1 2026 हमने थिंक पीवीसी पे ओवरऑल बेस पे हमने उसको नेट ब्रेक इवन से भी थोड़ा सा बेहतर पॉजिटिव की तरफ हम थिंक पीवीसी ऑपरेशंस को ले आए, डिस्पाइट पुटिंग अप एडिशनल आउटलेट इन लाहौर आल्सो दैट वी ओपनड अप लेट लास्ट ईयर. तो इसके बावजूद भी हम थिंक पीवीसी को अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह इस वक्त मतलब वो पॉजिटिव में, एंड दैट्स अ इनिशिएटिव. जो भी बिजनेस अगर ओन करेगा उसकी उसकी कोशिश होगी कि वो बिजनेस को और ग्रो करे. So that will remain on that part.
रॉ मटेरियल अवेल,
अच्छा, रॉ मटेरियल पे जो है ना, वो मैंने आपको कहा कि हम जैसे हमारी एक अपनी कंपनी भी है जो हमें हेल्प करती है इस पूरे प्रोसेस में, बट अभी तक बहुत इंटेंस है. 3 महीने बड़ा अरसा है, बट अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह वी आर मैनेजिंग द ओवरऑल ऑपरेशन. सो आई डोंट थिंक, इफ यू अलाउ मी, आई विल बी वेरी आप safely say कि volume should, availability should not be a challenge, rather price can become a challenge कि यार मतलब किस प्राइस पे हम उसको ले पाते हैं, बट अवेलेबिलिटी शुड नॉट बी है. बट अभी तक अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह हम अल्लाह का बहुत फजल करम है कि हम somehow इसको मैनेज कर रहे हैं into a very reasonable level. So don't see as a bigger challenge in terms of कि अगर, क्योंकि कहीं ना कहीं एक नया नॉर्म सेट होगा और चीजें चलती रहेंगी इंशाल्लाह ताला.
थैंक यू गुलाम हैदर. मिनहाल अली, इनसाइड सिक्योरिटीज प्लीज.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम।
जी
मैं
अस्सलाम
audible?
वालेकुम. वालेकुम अस्सलाम. जी
सर
जी
मेरा
साउंड एंड
क्वेश्चन
क्लियर.
रिगार्डिंग आपने जो अभी बताया कि अपनी प्रेजेंटेशन में कि आपने तकरीबन 10 बिलियन की लॉन्ग टर्म बोरोइंग रखी है कि इन केस अगर ये एक्विजिशन नहीं होती है तो कंपनी जो है वो ग्रिड की तरफ जाएगी। तो मेरा सवाल ये है कि टोटल केपेक्स 10 बिलियन ही होगा अगर आप लोग ग्रिड की तरफ जाते हैं। और दूसरा क्वेश्चन मेरा ये है कि अभी जैसे आपका करेंटली 47 किलोवाट आपने बताया कि टैरिफ है इलेक्ट्रिसिटी का, तो आफ्टर ग्रिड ये कितना कम हो जाएगा?
तो
10 बिलियन मिनहाल, आई वुड से ब्रॉडली नंबर यही आएगा. वी हैव नॉट कंप्लीट, ये क्लास 2 एस्टिमेट्स है, क्लास 4 एस्टिमेट्स है. एज प्रोजेक्ट प्रोग्रेस करेगा तो ग्रिड की एक्चुअल कॉस्ट जो है वो हमें ज्यादा टाइटली पता चलेगी. इट विल बी इन द नेबरहुड ऑफ 10 बिलियन. लेकिन ये याद रहे कि द ग्रिड सोल्यूशन, if Polymer and Lottes deal does not go ahead and the grid solution of Polymers and Lottes deal goes ahead, is very different cost. So इसलिए we cannot say for sure कि grid solution की cost क्या आएगी. 10 billion is the cost approximately if there is no deal and Polymer खुद अपना grid का connection लगाता है.
so just to precisely answer Minhal is कि ये यही numbers इसी के हैं, जैसे राबिया कह रही है कि वो more or less इसी number में, but this is 50-60% of the load. हम ये first step की बात करें, not a complete conversion of EPCL power to that. So that's one. और अगर ये लोटेवा की ट्रांजैक्शन हो जाती है तो then it will help us in terms of bringing the overall cost down. As I said, it will be much faster. अगर हमें 2 साल लगेंगे तो शायद इस सोल्यूशन में हमें 3-4-5 महीनों में हम मतलब पावर अप कर लेंगे सिस्टम को इंशाल्लाह. सो एक तो ये है. दूसरी आपने बात की कि हम ग्रिड पे अगर कन्वर्ट होते हैं तो क्या है, तो आज मेरे ख्याल में B3 का कनेक्शन, B3 का रेट इज 29 रुपीज, 29 ऑन एवरेज बेसिस पे ये रेट है, जो कि अगर हम आधा भी कन्वर्ट कर लेते हैं तो, बट चूंकि ये सिर्फ पावर होगा और हम अभी करंटली थोड़ा सा स्टीम का एडवांटेज भी लेते हैं, सो एनर्जी टर्म, बट इट विल बी, अगर मतलब ओवरऑल बेसिस पे भी देखें तो समथिंग वेरी सिग्निफिकेंट in terms of savings to the bottom line for organization if you convert it. वो numbers थोड़ा सा चूंकि, but I think 30% कॉस्ट, 30% रिडक्शन तो कहीं भी नहीं हुई, मतलब
आप समझिए 47 is with captive power, 29, maybe 27, maybe 32, significant reduction on the grid, especially with the Prime Minister's package that is currently in place. I don't think there are any other questions. Minhal का हो गया सवाल. So if there are any other questions from anyone, तो गुलाम हैदर साहब का फिर सवाल है.
जी मेरे एक ही क्वेश्चन थी लास्ट में ना कि फ्यूचर आउटलुक हम क्या देखते हैं, जैसे कि अभी हमने देखा कि चाइना ने जो रिबेट खत्म कर दिया था टैक्स का ना, तो उसने उस पे जो है ना
हम्म।
हमने पॉजिटिव इम्पैक्ट हमने देखा। तो फ्यूचर आउटलुक को क्या देखते हैं आपकी तरफ से, पीवीसी मार्जिन, इथिलीन वगैरह का, वो जरा काइंडली हमें गाइड कर दीजिएगा। थैंक यू।
तो देखिए हैदर साहब, अगर मैं आपको जनवरी फरवरी का आपको नंबर दूं ना, तो और अगर आप प्रेजेंटेशन जो हमने इनके साथ शेयर हो गई ये प्रेजेंटेशन
ऑनलाइन
ना,
लग गई।
तो अगर आप उस प्रेजेंटेशन में भी जो कोर डेल्टा की एनालिसिस है ना, वो जनवरी फरवरी के नंबर्स भी अगर आप देखेंगे तो वो उसको रिफ्लेक्ट कर रहे हैं इन टर्म्स ऑफ योर चाइना की जो प्राइस रिबेट का जो डिस्कशन आई थी। तो अगर मैं उसको सिर्फ एक्स्ट्रापोलेट करता कि यार ये जंग अगर नहीं होती और वो नंबर वैसे ही चलते, तो हम लोग जो है वो समवेयर अराउंड, लेट मी गिव यू द एग्जैक्ट, ये कौन से पेज पे था ये तो जनवरी फरवरी में अगर आप देखें ना, तो हम लोग कोर डेल्टा में 314 जनवरी था जहां पे हमें ये रिबेट का वो हुआ, अल्दो ये अप्रैल 1 से एप्लीकेबल था, बट वो फेड में पास ऑन हो गया। इंटरनेशनल प्राइस साउथ ईस्ट एशिया, नॉर्थ ईस्ट एशिया, साउथ एशिया प्राइसेस में रिफ्लेक्ट हो गया, और फेड में वो प्राइसेस जो पीवीसी की थी वो काफी बढ़ गई और कोर डेल्टा 370 पे आ गया, जो कि दिसंबर के महीने में 250 पे था। तो $120 का प्राइस में करेक्शन आ गई ऑन अ कोर डेल्टा बेसिस। फॉर अस इट्स अ फिनोमिनल गेन। ये है प्री वॉर बेसिस। जंग के बाद जो है वो सूरत हाल थोड़ी और प्राइसेस में बेहतरी हुई, लेकिन कोर डेल्टा डिप्रेस हुआ बिकॉज एथिलीन की प्राइस बहुत बढ़ गई। तो मैं अगर उस एनॉमली को खत्म करूं और चीजें अगर नॉर्मल वापस आती हैं, जो ऑब्वियसली कुछ महीने लेंगी इसको रीसेट होने में, तो जो प्री वॉर बेसिस पे दिसंबर की प्राइसेस थी वो नहीं रहेंगी इंशाल्लाह ताला, ये हमारा ख्याल है। और theoretically we should be reasonable enough in terms of the spread between ethylene and PVC on a sustained basis. So to answer, we are hopeful that prices should remain in a range where businesses get support out of it going forward. But it all depends कि ये कॉन्फ्लिक्ट का कंक्लूजन कैसे होता है और चीजें कैसे सेटल होती हैं क्रूड पे और नेफ्ता। थैंक यू सर। अकील साहब हैं एनबीपी से।
अस्सलाम वालेकुम।
जी अस्सलाम
अस्सलाम
वालेकुम।
वालेकुम जी सर, मेरे तीन चार क्वेश्चन है सर, क्विकली मैं पूछ लेता हूँ सर। फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल सर, लेवी आप लोगों ने कितनी इनकॉर्पोरेट की, इसलिए कि आप पेमेंट तो नहीं कर रहे होंगे, लेकिन क्या फर्स्ट क्वार्टर में आपने कुछ रिकॉग्नाइज किया है लेवी को? 1400 रुपये पूरी इनकॉर्पोरेट की है
जी
या कुछ डिफरेंट किया है?
जी। अभी एक एक करके सवाल के जवाब ले लेते हैं, तो 1400 पे पूरी किए।
ओके। और
1400 से।
सेकेंडली सर ये था, आप लोगों ने पहले मेंशन किया था थर्ड पार्टी गैस अवेलेबल थी कोई पीपीएल के पास था, आपने नाम नहीं लिया था पीपीएल का बहरहाल, तो आपको थर्ड पार्टी गैस की तरफ भी जा रहे थे, उसके बारे में कुछ अपडेट कि आपने ग्रिड का फाइनल कर लिया है?
सो देखिए, थर्ड पार्टी गैस तो सिचुएशनल है और वो टाइम बाउंड है, वो तो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट 1 साल का ही है। अगर हम थर्ड पार्टी को तो अभी भी परसू कर रहे हैं, लेकिन प्रॉब्लम ये है कि लास्ट ईयर थर्ड पार्टी पे गैस लेवी एप्लीकेबिलिटी की कंफर्मेशन नहीं थी क्योंकि कोई नोटिफिकेशन नहीं था। लेकिन लेट लास्ट ईयर ये चीज क्लियर हो गई कि गैस लेवी विल बी एप्लीकेबल टू थर्ड पार्टी गैसेज ऑल्सो, जिसके बेस पे फिर उन्होंने अपनी प्राइस करेक्शन अकॉर्डिंगली सेट कर ली। जब हम उस चीज को देख रहे हैं तो फिर थर्ड पार्टी गैस भी वायबल नहीं लगती कि वो टेक और पे के अरेंजमेंट है। यहाँ पे मैं टेक एंड पे के अरेंजमेंट पे हूँ एसएचजीसी के साथ, वेरी रिलायबल सप्लायर। मैं बंद हो जाऊं कोई मसला नहीं है, ज्यादा कंज्यूम कर लूं मसला नहीं है। तो मैं जब ये सारी चीजें प्लस एंड माइनस कर रहा हूँ और गैस लेवी इधर भी लग रही है उधर भी लग रही है, तो फिर थर्ड पार्टी गैस लुक्रेटिव नहीं रहती। इसीलिए हम तो, अगर कोई बहुत अच्छी डील प्राइस पे मिल जाती है और गैस लेवी ऐड करके भी हमें फायदा होता है, तो हम जरूर उसको, अभी भी एक टेंडर आया हुआ है, हम उसको अभी भी परसू कर रहे हैं। तो थर्ड पार्टी को हम छोड़ नहीं रहे, इट्स ओनली के प्राइस कैसे सेट होती है उसकी।
ओके, कास्टिक सोडा की है और हाइड्रोजन प्रोडक्साइड की अगर वॉल्यूम अगर आप शेयर करते हैं, और सेकेंडली जो आपने प्रोडक्शन की है पीवीसी की 67,000 की, तो बज़ाहिर ऐसा लगता है कि ये वीसीएम भी आपने कुछ इंपोर्ट किया है जिसकी वजह से ये पीवीसी की प्रोडक्शन इतनी ज़्यादा बढ़ी है, जो मेरा ख्याल है। आप इसको भी थोड़ा बता दीजिएगा क्लियरली।
सो सो आप बिल्कुल सही पहुंचे। एक तो ये कि हमने थोड़ा इन्वेंट्री ड्रॉ डाउन किया है, हमने बनाया 67, हमने बेचा ज्यादा, तो एक तो इन्वेंट्री ड्रॉ डाउन हुई है। दूसरा ये जरूर है कि हमें अच्छा पार्सल मिल गया था वीसीएम का, एंड वी हैव इंपोर्टेड वीसीएम बिकॉज हमारी पीवीसी की प्लांट की यूटिलाइजेशन ज्यादा हो सकती है, तो हमने उसको लेके हमने पीवीसी ज्यादा बनाया, पीवीसी ज्यादा बेचा और वीसीएम भी ली और इन्वेंट्री को भी ड्रॉ डाउन किया है। और कॉस्टिक और उस पे चूंकि वॉल्यूम्स एज आई सेड the only point is that we are stable from our earlier operations also। तकरीबन हम 26-27% मार्केट शेयर पे हैं कॉस्टिक पे, और एचपीओ पे भी मैंने आपको बता दिया है। एचपीओ तो लास्ट ईयर इनसिग्निफिकेंट था बिकॉज वी आर रैंपिंग अप एंड सिमिलरली वी आर ट्राइंग टू गेट मार्केट शेयर। तो असल एचपीओ का जो स्टेबिलिटी और मार्केट डिटर्मिनेशन होगी वो 2026 ज्यादा बेहतर तरीके से पिक्चर देगा इंशाल्लाह ताला।
और मेरा लास्ट क्वेश्चन है कि जैसे आपने मेंशन किया कि 10 बिलियन का आप लोग कैपेक्स करेंगे बेसिकली, तो इसके अंदर ग्रिड में तो क्या इसके अंदर सोलर और बैटरीज भी शामिल है साथ में, या खाली ये कैपेक्स खाली रिलेटेड
नहीं।
ग्रिड का ही है?
ये सिर्फ ग्रिड है, और इसके साथ जो हमें ऑक्सिलरी बॉयलर्स लगाने पड़ेंगे बिकॉज जब आप ग्रिड पे कन्वर्ट होंगे तो वहां से सिर्फ पावर आएगी, स्टीम तो नहीं मिलेगी। तो वो अकॉर्डिंगली जो बॉयलर की इन्वेस्टमेंट है वो है, ग्रिड की इन्वेस्टमेंट है, और कैप्टिव हम सॉरी
म्यूट कर दो।
जो सोलर है वो हम जितना अभी कर रहे हैं हमने अभी उसको फर्दर एक्सटेंड नहीं किया। पहले हम जरा स्टेबल हो जाएं ग्रिड पे आके हाफ लोड ऑपरेशन पे, उसके बाद फिर देन सब्सिक्वेंटली हम फर्दर प्लान देखेंगे कि क्या करना है।
Anyone else has any questions? I think we're at the end of our time also now.
ठीक, अब्दुल मुकीत या कोई था जिसका
अब्दुल
सवाल था?
मुकीत का कोई सवाल था, but he is not on the call anymore. So if there are no further questions, thank you very much for your time, and we look forward to meeting and discussing the business again in the next analyst
Yeah.
briefing. Thank you.
Thank you guys. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.